Hi, I'm back. This is gonna be another video of me reading whatever I want. I might also include some more travel clips in this video. But in terms of reading, I just finished Cage of Dreams by Rebecca Schaeffer literally at 3 a.m. this morning, so I'm really tired. And that was the second book, and I guess the last book in the City of Nightmares duo. I won't get too into my thoughts on it, but overall I really enjoyed it. The writing definitely wasn't the best, but I think that if you're looking for something that's really quick, fun, and easy to read, maybe check it out. But now that I finished a series, that means I have to find another book to read. And I think that I'm finally gonna start reading the Diviner series by Libba Bray. I have the first book right here, but this series has been on my radar for I want to say a few years now. I kept putting it off because I was kind of intimidated. There's 4 books in this series, and I believe that each book is at least 500 pages, so they're pretty big. I actually really like longer books, especially when they're fantasy. I'm not really sure why I've been putting it off for so long, but we're here now, and that's all that matters. I'm actually not sure what the series is about. All I really know is that it takes place in New York in the 20s, and there's some sort of paranormal element. So I don't know if that means like ghosts or like vampires. And I also believe that the first book is about a serial killer, and there's a little murder mystery happening. But yeah, I'm really excited. I just got back from my trip a few days ago. And I am so tired. I'm actually not jet lagged, which is surprising. My sleep schedule is just fine. It's more so that when my family travels, we like to jam pack our schedules and leave like no free time. I was also walking well over 10,000 steps every single day of the week, so I think my body's just trying to recover. I unfortunately did not get to read too much while on my trip, so we were out for the entire day, and then by the time that we got back to our hotel, I just passed out. I guess I could have read while on public transportation because we took the train a lot, but I was just worried that we would miss our stop. I didn't want to take that chance. But I'm currently around a quarter of the way through the Diviners, and overall I'm enjoying it so far. It's a bit more graphic than I was expecting. Like, some of the descriptions are actually surprisingly gory, but I kind of like the slightly darker tone that the series is taking. I think it makes things a little bit more interesting. But this book is about a girl named Evie. She's from Ohio, and she has this power where when she touches an object she can kind of read it, but because of that power she kind of becomes the pariah of her town, so her family sends her off to live with her uncle in New York City just while things calm down in their town. And her uncle runs a museum that's basically all about the occult, and one day this body shows up and there's a bunch of like weird symbols and sigils all around it, so her uncle's called in to help investigate the murder. That's kind of the main plot, at least as of right now. We also get the perspective of another character named Memphis, but we don't really know too much about him except for the fact that he had this power where he could heal people, but something happened and he either can't or won't use the power. I'm interested to see how his story is going to intersect with the main plotline of the murder mystery. Overall, I'm enjoying the story so far. The one thing that I'm not the biggest fan of, sometimes the author writes in the perspective of either inanimate objects or like animals. Like in the beginning she writes from the perspective of the wind, and then later on she writes from the perspective of a house, like a bird. And I'm personally just not a fan of that writing. I don't know, it just kind of feels weird. Like, I just don't think that I'm a big fan of, I think it's third person omniscient. Like, every time we hop into the perspective of someone that's not one of the main characters, it kind of feels a bit cheap. I feel like you should be able to create suspense in another way. I'm very well aware that this is a personal preference thing, so I'm not gonna hold this against the book. Other than that, the story is fun so far, so I'm just gonna keep reading. I haven't read that much more since my last update, but now the KKK is involved, and I'm not entirely sure why. On another note though, I'm really liking Sam and Evie, especially Evie, because she's like low-key kind of funny. Like, there were some moments where I read the stuff that she was saying and actually laughed out loud. I still want more of Memphis though. Also, without getting into spoilers, I think this book is gonna have stuff to do with, well, obviously the occult, but like weird religious stuff, which I'm really excited about, because if there's one thing about me, it's that I love a good cult in a fantasy book. Welcome to another cooking interlude. On the menu we have sundubu, which is a Korean soft tofu soup. It's very good. I forgot that I accidentally burned the pepper flakes here. The way you can see it literally turning black, I swear I stepped away for all of 2 seconds. I'm not making myself look very good in the kitchen, am I? I promise I'm decent though, I just prefer baking. Luckily the second attempt was successful and things ended up going quite swimmingly. I didn't really film myself reading that much for this video, but I did finally finish The Diviners. It took me, I swear to God,
12 years.
I don't know what it was, but I just didn't really feel like picking up my Kindle and reading physically. I don't know if I was in a slump because I was able to get through 4 audiobooks in the time that it took me to finish that one book. I guess I'll talk about the audiobooks really quickly. Yeah, it's not really quick at all. The first one is called Luck of the Titanic by Stacey Lee. It's a YA historical fiction, and it follows this girl who's half Chinese and half British, and she ends up boarding the Titanic to go looking for her twin brother, and she's trying to convince him to go to the US with her. And the book's basically about the experiences of the Chinese passengers aboard the ship. Overall, I really liked the book. I did kind of get frustrated with the narrator because she was just so naive. I didn't really love that, but the story was really good. You definitely know how the book's gonna end because it takes place on the Titanic, and what happens to the Titanic? It sinks, so no surprises there. But also, in the very beginning of the book, the author includes like an epigraph, I guess, that basically says of the 8 Chinese passengers on the Titanic, 6 of them survived. So it's kind of obvious what's gonna happen. It's basically just a countdown until the Titanic hits the iceberg on, what was it, April 14th or something? So that's the Luck of the Titanic. The next book that I read was American Psycho. I don't know who the author is, but I think the movie is more well known in pop culture. But if you've never heard of it, it's about this guy named Patrick Bateman. He's this really successful guy on Wall Street, but he's also a serial killer, and you basically just follow his day-to-day life. All I'll say about this book for now, I did not like it, not at all. I regret the hours that I spent listening to this audiobook. Luckily for me though, the last 2 audiobooks that I read were actually really good. The third one was called Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. It's a gothic fantasy, I want to say, and it's basically a retelling of Carmilla, which I didn't know this, but it inspired Dracula. I've also never read Dracula. I don't really like epistolary novels, and I think that one is like all letters. But with Hungerstone, you follow this woman who's married to this guy who made all of his like fortune off of the steel business. They end up moving to a new estate, and on their way over there, they encounter this woman who is in a carriage accident. They decide to take her into their home and let her recover there, and there's something a little off about that woman. I don't really know how much more I can say without spoiling it, but I really liked this book. I was surprised because I've said in a previous video that I don't think gothic fantasy is for me, but I saw this book when it first came out on Goodreads, and I was like, okay, this seems kind of interesting. So I went to put a hold on it on Libby, and it said I would wait 10 weeks or so. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And I ended up waiting the whole 10 weeks for it. Normally, I don't know if this is the case for everyone, but for my library at least, the audiobooks that I've put on hold, if it said the wait list was 10 weeks, I would usually get it in like 3 to 4 weeks. Not for this book though. So the more I waited, the more I was intrigued. When the hold finally came in, I binged it in like 2 days. I really enjoyed it. The ending was really good. Wow. I don't even remember the main character's name. But yeah, if you're looking for gothic fantasy with a very healthy serving of feminine rage, check out Hungerstone. And the last audiobook I'll talk about is Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry by Joya Goffney, I think. It's a YA romance. You follow a girl named Quinn who's a senior in high school, and her whole thing is that she makes a lot of lists in her journal, and one day she ends up accidentally swapping journals with this one guy named Carter, who then proceeds to lose her journal, and she ends up getting blackmailed by the person who stole the journal. I thought it was really good. It's cute, it's entertaining, I thought it was paced really well, and I also really liked that it touched on more serious topics like being a POC in a predominantly white area. I feel like some of the YA books that I've read that do try to touch on more serious issues always feel like they're being 2 distinct things being talked about. Like there's the romance and then there's whatever topic that they're trying to make commentary on, and it never feels like it's integrated very seamlessly. It was in this book though. I thought it was very well done. This book gave me some more hope for the YA romance genre. So those were the audiobooks that I got through. Let's get back to The Diviners. Like I said earlier, I really enjoyed it. Even though it was really long, I thought it was paced very well. The writing definitely took a bit of time getting used to. It wasn't that bad, but it was more that the author, she really hammers in the fact that this book takes place in New York City in the 20s. It's the amount that the setting is described and also the characters using the lingo and the slang from the time period. It was a bit overwhelming at first, but it definitely helps you get immersed into the environment very well. I also grew to appreciate the times when you kind of step back from the main character's perspectives and you get like a few lines here and there about, I don't know, some random person in the city who like felt something changing in the atmosphere or something like that, you know? It felt like, you know, when you watch a movie where they zoom out the camera so you get like a fuller picture of what's happening everywhere. That's what it felt like, and I actually thought that was a cool way of foreshadowing. I will say though, even after finishing the book, I am still not a big fan of how much head hopping happens. I think I've said this before, but I actually love having the perspectives of multiple characters. I love a big cast. I think it's so much more fun, but I prefer for the author to very specifically delineate which parts are in which character's view, like either having separate chapters or even just a page break. I didn't like that this book just switches perspectives mid-page. It always just felt like a bit of whiplash. It was a bit disorienting. Other than that though, her writing is so atmospheric, and this book is so much creepier than I expected it to be. Like at the parts where the characters were inside the abandoned house, I actually almost had to put the book down for a bit. It was so eerie, and I just thought that was done so well. I also thought that the plot was a pretty unique take on murder mysteries. Most of the time I feel like you're watching the characters try to figure out who the killer is, but with this book I liked that from pretty early on you have a good idea of what's happening, you just don't really know why, and the book is the characters trying to piece together, I guess, the greater picture of what's going on, not just the murder. I don't know if that made sense. I'm trying not to spoil anything. Moving on, I think my favorite part was the characters. My favorite part's usually always the characters, but I really liked Evie. I thought she was really funny. I also liked Memphis. I wish we got more of him. The only real issue that I had when it came to the characters was the romance. I'm specifically talking about Evie. So here's the thing, and this is gonna be very mild spoilers for the romances. I won't name any names, but I don't like what was happening between Evie and we'll call him boy A, because I guess I should explain myself a bit. I don't like spoilers. I used to not be this way. I used to actively read everything that happens in a book. I have since changed my ways. I am a reformed woman. I have learned from the errors of my past, okay? Except when it comes to romances. I will look up who ends up with who, because I'm not someone that really rereads many books. So if there is a romance, and if I think I'm gonna like the two characters that get together, I want to be able to pick up on all of the breadcrumbs, especially if there's multiple books. So what did I do? I went on the Diviners wiki page, looked up who everyone ends up with, and I like all of the couples. Here's the thing. This is where the mild spoilers really kicks in. Evie is supposed to end up with boy B, and I really like those two together. I think they complement each other very nicely, but by the end of the Diviners, it seems like Evie is gonna have a romance with boy A, like I mentioned earlier. And the issue I have with that romance is not just that I like boy B better, there's low-key some ethical issues with her getting with boy A, and I don't like that at all. Oh, it bothers me so. They don't even compliment each other. I don't know. I don't like them together. This is not that deep. But I'm eagerly waiting for her to get with boy B. Hopefully that happens in the next book, but it better happen quickly, because I don't like Evie with boy A. I know I just went on this whole rant about Evie's romance, but personally, the relationship that I'm most excited for is Mabel. I don't know. I won't say anything, but I just think they're so cute together. I love me a good side character romance. I really do. So those are basically my thoughts on the Diviners, and I guess the other 4 books that I read. My reviews weren't really, I don't know if they made much sense. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see what I read next.